Hi there, Beeb.
Hey, Shelby.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We're here for episode 3 of Ricky Gervais Robot? Question mark.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Here
and
we
you can,
go.
yeah.
Did we
Uh,
have any time to reflect on the first two episodes? I definitely was kind of running it through my head for a few days after recording.
yeah, I was too. It wasn't a great experience, to be honest. And once
Reliving.
again, reliving it, yeah. And once again, I'm fortifying myself with a little cocktail, a little
Mm.
Dutch Barn vodka with
Dutch Barn
plenty of
vodka.
tonic. Plenty of tonic. Yes,
Not
yes.
sponsored.
Not sponsored by Dutch Barn, no,
Mm.
but made possible by Dutch Barn.
Yeah. I have a
Yeah,
beautiful. Do you love this glass?
it's
I thought
very,
it
very
was
classy. Very
Okay, it
classy
was
beer.
very happy, and I feel like that's the mood we need to
Maybe
get
we need a
into.
little bit of a more of a happy vibe with our glasses, at least.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, okay,
Yeah.
Shelbs, let's recap episode 1 and 2. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like forever ago. We were talking
Mm-hmm.
about the trips. I mean, you guys obviously were connected, chatting on a
Mm-hmm.
regular basis, and then
Yep.
now it's like time to step things up. You had
Yeah.
plans to meet,
We
right?
had plans to meet. Yep. He had suggested that he would come to Maine, which is where I
Okay,
live.
okay.
And the last time we spoke, I think maybe the scheduling conflict had come up. I can't remember, but he
Yeah.
was supposed to come in October and then found out that he had an engagement that had been booked months in advance that was right
Mm-hmm.
smack in the middle of the time he was supposed to come over here.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that, there was no way he was going to miss this trip, but he would need to refund the money that had been paid to him to do the engagement. So he needed money for that, and he had already asked for money to split the cost of the trip. So this
Like to
was like,
split the cost for his flight?
yeah, and the hotel and stuff, and of course he flies
Okay.
first class, if not charter flights. So
So what? Okay, that's yes, huge, huge red flag there, I would think. But the hotel, I
I,
get that. Like, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
I thought it was alarming too. Sure, of course I
Yeah.
did. But I think, as I may have mentioned before, I would just sort of have the panic, the moment of panic. All the voices in my head would be screaming, you you have got to wake up. This is
Yeah.
this is not what you think it is. And then
Right.
then then my heart would just sort of like tamp all those voices down, and it's one of my problems. I think I let my heart kind of lead me sometimes, and not
Yeah.
my brain. Um,
Okay. So from what I recall, though, you guys had booked, like, finalized, reserved a place in Booth Bay.
he said, yeah, that his manager slash
Mm-hmm.
friend Charlie, had handled the arrangements because I had
Mm-hmm.
offered. I had said,
Right.
there's a
Right. Right.
nice place right around here, that
Right.
would be a
Right.
lot easier. But he said, his manager knew how to do things discreetly and blah blah blah.
Mm.
So I kind of, just rolled with it. And
Okay.
then when he said he needed money to pay back this organization that he was supposed to appear at,
Right.
I thought, oh my God, I just gave you some money to cover the travel, you know, and
Yeah, that's
and
huge.
um, and this is where I entered the world of Bitcoin, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. He suggested sending money via Bitcoin, and I was like,
Okay.
well, first he said, send, how about we'll send it BTC? And I was like, what the hell is BTC? And
Right,
that's
right.
Bitcoin. So that was a hint to him that I was not really a worldly person.
Hmm.
But so I learned all about Bitcoin ATMs, which have a huge processing fee. I don't recommend them.
Okay,
But
interesting.
But also, Beeb, I think I should have probably mentioned this before. Every time I would go to get an iTunes card or even
Right.
like one of those video game cards, a Steam card, every single time the person at the cash register would say, "Are you sure you know who you're sending this to? There's a lot of scam."
Seriously?
Always. There were even signs up on the gift card, displays saying, do not send these, to people you don't know.
And so
Because
you at the time were just like not paying
I was like,
attention.
I know who it is. Don't
Yeah.
bother
Don't
me.
worry about me. Don't
It's
worry about
cool.
me.
It's
Mind
cool.
yourself. Mind
Yeah,
yourself.
too much government.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True.
But
Okay.
then but then also my bank, PayPal, all of these other platforms also send up red flags. They were blocking any transaction I tried to make for Bitcoin exchanges because
Yeah.
it was suspicious to them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Ricky, this isn't going to work with the Bitcoin.
Right. Right.
So we wound up, I sent him money through Western Union. Again, also red flags.
Yeah.
My
I mean.
bank, my bank was on high alert, and they would
Hmm.
call me or I had to call them and say, how come this transaction was blocked? And this woman, it's not funny, it's really pathetic, but
No, it's horrible. This is
the
fucked up.
customer service person, her name was Lisa, and she
Mm.
sounded like a nice gal.
Yeah.
But she's like, "Who do you know who you're sending this money to?" And I said, "Of course. It's my friend who lives in Florida. This was right around like Hurricane Milton or something." I said, "She's homeless right now," and I'm like making up this story. Like, what has happened to me?
We're like spiraling out. Like,
Totally, and you could
oh,
tell she was thinking, oh dear, oh
oh
Shelby,
God.
you know,
Oh,
I'm trying to help you, but I
yeah.
can't if
Yeah.
you're not going to admit how stupid you are. So that conversation took like half an hour of me persuading her to let this go through. So I had all these people, strangers trying to help me, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
So sent
Well,
him money.
you're very determined.
I
That's what
can
we.
be very determined. Oh,
Yeah.
geez, sorry. Very
What's your birth month? Just so we. Are you a Taurus?
October.
Oh, okay.
No,
I'm
no,
a
October.
Taurus,
Are
so
you? Okay.
when it
Yeah.
comes to being stubborn and what
Yeah.
have you.
Well, I guess I have plenty of stubborn in me
So
sometimes.
you're a
And
Libra.
yeah, right between Libra and
Oh,
Scorpio,
you're a Libra like my husband.
the scales. So I'm always
Yeah.
weighing and I'm never
Well,
getting it balanced.
always.
I need balance.
Yeah. Balance is
Um,
hard.
it is hard. But, and
Balance is
this, the
hard.
main trip was supposed to happen like
Hmm.
right around my birthday. So that was like another like a hidden thing in my mind. Like, wouldn't this be great
Yeah.
if I actually had a really fun birthday for a change?
So, and I'm just trying to get my story straight here, right? Because I was
Yeah,
under the impression that there were talks of Venice, correct? Or
that
was
comes
that
later.
later? That
That
comes
comes
later.
later.
Okay, so but
Yeah,
then the initial trip was going to be you guys were meeting in Maine,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
had some break
Hmm.
in his schedule, and his
Hmm. Yeah.
assistant Charlie had lined things up, and
Hmm.
it was a go, right? It was a
It was
go.
supposed to be a go. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
supposed to
Okay.
try to get this engagement
Okay.
taken care of so that,
Okay.
he could still come. He said he was
Hmm.
determined to come. And, I tried to believe him. But
And so
then
did you take off some time from work just
I
to
had yeah, I had scheduled a week
PT?
off from yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
vacation
Yeah.
from both of my jobs, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Which is that's great in itself, you know. Needed.
Needed,
Needed.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
whether I was
Yeah.
going anywhere or not, definitely
Okay.
needed.
Yeah.
So, even though these red flags were coming up and it was getting so much more stressful just thinking about it, I still felt like this was my one and only chance to decide whether or not this was a massive mistake. You okay there?
Yeah, I'm reading a recipe on the bottom here. 1 ounce, sorry to distract. Birthday girl, 1 ounce peach schnapps, a half ounce orange liqueur, a 1 ounce lemonade filled with Pinot Grigio.
Huh.
Sounds
All
disgusting,
right.
but
It does.
anyways,
Yeah, you lost me
sorry,
at
not
peach
to.
schnapps, but that's all
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
disgusting. Yeah.
We all have to get through
Anyways,
this somehow. So
I know it's
that's
true.
why
It's
I'm
true.
learning the importance of alcohol. I guess that's that's
Yeah,
a good takeaway from this,
it's
huh?
a good resource to have. Yeah.
It can be.
Um.
It's good to have something in your arsenal. So
So, what month was this, Shelby, that we were waiting
this
for
was
this?
October, and
Okay.
so that came up. That engagement thing came up, and then
Mm-hmm.
around October 19th. Oh well, actually before that even. Um, when I was obviously having like doubts somewhere in the back of my mind, and trying to figure out whether this was good for me or not, and
Right.
he was really good at making me feel supported and heard because I voiced a lot of my reservations and fears, and
But he kept just like saying, everything's okay. I'm coming.
yeah,
We're doing
yeah,
this. Right.
yeah, right. And then he also, I think I mentioned this to you back when it happened, that he
Mm.
offered me a position on his team and said he
Oh.
wanted to add me to the payroll.
Oh.
And I thought, well, that would solve some problems. you know,
I mean,
Number
sure.
one, at least I could maybe get paid back all this money,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But also it just sounded like it could be fun, and I knew it was sort of a coming out of left field and didn't know if I should trust it or not. And
Right.
also,
Right.
believe it or not, I was feeling like I still felt weird thinking that he might think I was looking for money for him and that I was looking for
Right.
some sort of a handout because I wasn't. And so I didn't really jump at the chance, although I said, thanks, that's very
But so
nice.
so what kind of offer? I mean, I know you're a journalist previously. I know what you do for work now, but
hmm
like what was this offer?
Well, I asked him, I said, what would you have me do? And he said, well, I'm not sure yet. I just want to
Hmm.
have you on the team and then we can figure that out later. He said,
Okay.
I know you would be helpful to me because you already have been. Um, so I thought, fine, but I still kind of wanted to stall it. I wanted to slow
Yeah.
that idea down. So I
Right.
said,
Right.
well, you should probably interview me.
Right.
And, you
Absolutely.
know,
Because up until this point, we haven't actually had a face to face, obviously,
right,
but
right. Yeah. So I
yeah.
thought maybe
Yeah.
this was another angle towards getting some sort of a Zoom call or something
Mm.
scheduled. And he's like, absolutely, sure. And so we sort of planned on scheduling an interview, and then it turned down, it wasn't going to be a Zoom call for whatever reason. I
Sure. Sure.
kept
Whatever
trying.
excuse in the book, right?
There's always excuses. Yeah. Like, he'd say, all right, maybe, after my next show, we could do one. And then the next day he'd say, I'm so sorry. I got really tired, couldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
happen.
And so the
Um,
real Ricky Gervais, again, just recapping, he's a director, he's a actor, comedian. He
yeah.
has tour dates correctly, like all throughout the year.
Yeah, yeah, and
Year
the
in,
tour
out.
started. Yeah, the tour had started when we were
Okay.
talking.
Mm-hmm.
So I could easily check his schedule, and I did sort of know where he was going to be,
Right, right.
performing.
Yeah,
And it was mostly in England for the first part of the tour.
sure.
Um, but
Sure.
we had our little interview, and it was kind of a joke, mostly because whenever I have job interviews, my my main
Oh
goal is
God.
to see if I can make them laugh.
Oh good.
It's
Well, that's
the
actually that is a fabulous tool. If you can make your interviewee
yeah,
interviewer.
it's amazing though that I ever got a job, but
Oh my
that was
God.
always sort of my agenda. On top of anything else, I really didn't give a shit, where I was going to be in 5 years, all those like traditional
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I asked him like, why do you think I should be on your team? And he's like, whoa, I didn't expect any questions from you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but so it was really just a silly little exercise that didn't, have any effect
Well,
one way or the other.
yeah, it doesn't sound silly, and at least you established, I don't know, more of a rapport outside of just
Yeah.
your day-to-day
Yeah.
talking, you know?
Right,
What?
right. And I did want to know like what
Yeah.
his world looked like outside of just his performing, like
Right.
what,
Right.
because I do believe that he has probably plenty of people on his payroll, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's the driving force behind the real Ricky's like work ethic. He
Right.
knows he's
Right.
got a lot of people that count on him continuing to
Yeah.
work, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
So
So,
he made you the offer, you responded, you had the conversation. I mean, what else
mhm.
made you continue to believe? I just,
Well, also, I we mentioned last time the little boy that he'd been
yeah.
helping, Jason,
Hmm.
and he said
Jason,
he said he got an email from Jason, and that he was
the Make-A-Wish
the yeah the
child. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I thought, I mean, I obviously all of this stuff is so easy to fabricate,
Right.
and
Right.
I think probably one of my takeaways, there's so many, and I should have should have learned all these things very, very early on, but I think whoever is doing this sort of thing can create a pretty intricate world, with all these little moving pieces, that kind of help make it feel like it's more than just like this random voice coming at you.
Yeah.
You start to envision like all these
Absolutely.
interactions and stuff,
Hmm.
especially like I have a pretty vivid imagination. So
Hmm.
it was easy for me to imagine like him and Charlie,
Hanging
taking care of,
out.
yeah, hanging out,
Yeah.
definitely. And they
Yeah.
had in my mind, they had sort of like a Hunter S. Thompson Gonzo sort of dynamic, or also, I don't know if you ever saw The In-Laws, the original one with Alan Arkin
Oh.
and Peter Falk. They seemed like that, like a couple
Ooh.
of hapless guys who would just make bad decisions and get in trouble, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but who knows? I mean, I don't know if Ricky
I mean,
actually has a friend like that.
I'd love to be in a room with that happening,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, me
Yeah.
too, me too. And that, like, I was sort of drawn to that. I kind of wanted to be a fly on the wall, with
Yeah.
whoever he was hanging out with.
Yeah.
Um, but
So,
so
okay.
I was finding reasons, to sort of make his world seem authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
he was helping a bit, but it was probably mostly my efforts to make
Yeah.
it seem real, more so than his.
Yeah, but
Um,
I do think like it's always like push and pull, but even if you didn't reach out, he would continue the conversation.
he was always, yeah, he was really good at, responding. I mean, not
Right,
necessarily
right,
immediately, but I knew he was going to get back to me for the most part.
right,
I never had, any doubts that he wasn't going to
right,
reply at
right.
some point.
So, okay, so I'm still thinking back to the Maine trip.
Yeah.
Did that come to fruition? Were we left hanging? What
Well,
happened?
after we sorted out, the first round of expenses and the second round of expenses, then like mid October, before, like the week before the trip was supposed to happen,
Mm-hmm.
he said he had gone to some meeting or something and had to come home early because he wasn't feeling well.
Right.
And so I asked him, what his symptoms were. And he said, he had a fever, felt achy and
Mm.
tired, didn't have an appetite. And I said, "Do you have COVID, maybe?" And he said,
Right,
I'm
right.
pretty sure it's not COVID, And I was, I think I always had these big fears that something was going to get in the way of
Yeah.
ever seeing him. And also, this sounds crazy, but I also felt like because we're both older and we don't
Mm-hmm.
have, a ton of time ahead of us,
Sure.
I was so afraid that things were going to get cut short, that if he
Right,
got
right,
sick or something,
right,
we would never have enough time, but that would
right, right.
definitely, impact the time we did have. So
Yeah.
I was
I mean,
really,
is
really
there,
worried.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
Is
go
there
ahead,
ever
you.
enough time for any of us on this earth, right? It's like
Not
you start
not
figuring it out in late age and then it's, you
Yeah,
only got a
yeah,
couple more good years.
a couple more good years maybe, but
Mm,
so he said he was going to the doctor the next day, that
mm-hmm.
Charlie had set up an appointment for him, and of course I'm like, oh shit. I don't know if this is going to work out
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
any of us,
Right.
So I said, please let me know, give me a full report of what happens at the doctor's. So
Yeah.
he said he went to this guy, Dr. Dave, and that he had
Dr.
to.
Dave. Okay.
Sure, sure, right? Like Dr.
Yeah.
Phil,
Yeah.
only a
Dr.
medical
Phil.
doctor. Yeah. But he said they'd once again had to keep things very discreet because if anybody caught wind of him being sick, they might cancel tour dates and that would cause a
Mm-hmm.
real terrible ripple effect. He didn't want anything like
Which,
that to
like, in
happen.
theory, that's true, but also,
Hmm. Right.
I, yeah. Okay.
if
Okay.
you're if you're really sick, then obviously that should be the most important thing,
Yeah. Yeah,
but I
absolutely.
also know that the real Ricky hates to cancel dates, that he
Mm-hmm.
feels
Mm-hmm.
terrible if he I don't know if he ever has done that, but he knows people travel a long way to see him, so
Right,
doesn't want to
right.
disappoint people you know
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
so went to the doctor. Turns out it was pneumonia. And he said
Mm.
the doctor wanted to do a bunch of tests, a bunch more tests. And of course, this was going to cost money, you know. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
holy fuck, you know. So he
Mm-hmm.
asked for more money.
Oh my
I
God,
sent him some more
no.
money. Yeah.
You did not.
Oh, Beeb, this is the tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
Oh.
Dr. Dave didn't mind being paid in iTunes cards initially, but he did have a much bigger sort of plan financially for like what Ricky really needed in terms of treatment. But I know how stupid I am. I know how stupid I
It's
sound. I
okay. Yeah.
apologize, everybody, if you're banging your head against the wall. Maybe every
It's like
time
a
you feel like
car
doing
crash, but you can't look
can't look
away.
right, right, and
You
I was
can't. You
sort of
can't.
steering the vehicle right into the tree.
And again, just so any of our listeners out there, you're aware, we are only bringing light to this so that this does not happen to others, right?
I hope not. I mean, I know it's inevitable probably that there will be other people like me who just want some magic in their life, and think
Yeah,
this is it,
absolutely.
But so yeah, he was sick, and his doctor wanted him to, stay at his clinic. Basically, he wanted to monitor him. And initially, he said he didn't have enough money for that. That he was going to go home. I was like, oh my god, if he wants you to stay, then you should stay. And I was like,
Right, right, right.
completely sort of beside myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and meanwhile, I was thinking, you know once again, how do I know this is real? How do I know this isn't just another elaborate scheme to get me to send him money? Because of course, his health is going to be paramount to me, and way more important than him coming to Maine, I said, did you tell your doctor you have a hot date in Maine? And he said,
Yeah,
he said,
right.
he said he knows I have to get, you have to be better next week,
Yeah, yeah. Good.
but uh, I also said, if he thinks you need to stay and have treatments and things like that, then, that's way more important. So we kind of went back and forth. And then he said, at some point it became clear that he wasn't going to be able to come,
Okay,
and,
okay. So
and so I
gigs up. He's not
gigs
coming.
up, yeah. And I said,
Yeah,
could we at least maybe have a Zoom call since you can't come? And he's like,
yeah.
of course, so it was set up. It was going to be like
Mm-hmm.
our date, and
Like
he would,
our Sunday dates.
yeah,
Our Sunday dates
pretty
have been
much,
called.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully a
yeah,
little more romantic, maybe a little more
yeah.
flesh, but but still virtual.
Yeah, yeah.
So of course then the night came and nothing, radio silence, and I was like, oh my
Oh, he blew
god.
you off?
Yeah, and he said the next day he sent me a little, like, a recorded voice message, and he's like, I'm so sorry, love, I'm so sorry that I didn't make it to our date. And he said I would cross any ocean for you, and oopsie,
Oh.
I
And
just
then the
pulled out
sweet
my.
earbud.
What's that,
In the
babe?
sweet in the sweet English accent saying, "Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, love. I'm not
Yeah.
making it." Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I listened and listened and tried to discern whether or not this was him or not. It seemed like it
Mm-hmm.
definitely could be, but in
Right.
retrospect, of course, you could probably find somebody who sounds like him.
Right.
Um, but so I was I was I was really, really devastated, not just about the trip being canceled and not
Mm-hmm.
having any sort of physical evidence in the way of a Zoom call or anything to help me figure out, just how badly I had I had, navigated
Yeah.
this thing,
Yeah. 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 So you're
so
let me put it in better terms. You're pissed. I'm going to say it in my terms. You're mad, you got blown off, so now you're trying to figure out what this all is, right? Like who is this person? He blew me off, led me on. Like how what's the next step? Like are we trying to get proof of who he is? I mean, are you still apprehensive of to Ricky being Ricky or are you
yeah. Well, first of all,
no?
I would say I wasn't mad. I was more just crushed and I thought,
Okay. Yeah, fair, fair.
I should have been mad, but I was just
Yeah,
so afraid
yeah.
of the loss, like losing
Mhm.
this, because
Mhm.
it was a kind of a good sort of test of how it would feel if this all fell apart, and it felt
Yeah.
terrible. It felt
Yeah,
because
awful.
I was very, very invested in that trip. I mean,
Right, right.
literally, obviously, financially,
Obviously. Yeah, you
I
were
had to
like
sort of like, yeah, I had to prepare like my household basically for me being gone,
right, right, which is a big deal. I mean, but
I have
yes,
my
yes.
dogs, that aren't really good with other people, they've got their
Totally.
idiosyncrasies, and I have an adopted daughter who's an adult but needs
Right,
things,
right, right, right. Very fair.
and I didn't know quite how to explain where I was going, especially since he wanted it to be a secret. So I'm telling
Mhm.
people who are going to take care of my dogs, my brother, I told him I was going to help a friend move some stuff out of her house, and I felt terrible lying. But so I had all of that in place. I had groceries that I was going to bring to the hotel, you
Oh my
know.
gosh.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was stupid. It was stupid, but I just wanted to make sure that, he didn't have anything to worry about. He just had to fly in and then it was good. So
Us women making things
I know, I
so
know.
easy
I
for these men.
So easy. I know. I mean,
So
honestly,
easy.
could I have made it any easier?
No, no, you couldn't have.
Probably
So,
not.
so that went to shit. He was sick. Ricky
Mhm.
now has
Yeah.
pneumonia. Um,
Mhm.
the Zoom call happened. I mean,
But
why
it
did you keep trying? Like, the Zoom call happened but didn't happen.
Mhm.
And then,
Mhm.
so why did you keep trying to help him, Shelby? I mean, like, I know from deep down you have the best heart ever, ever. Seriously.
Well,
Uh,
um yeah, it's those are all good questions, and I kept, in spite of my feeling like, this was real, I
mm-hmm,
kept trying to find proof that it wasn't. I kept
mm-hmm,
like he would send pictures and stuff, and I kept checking online to see if they were there or not. And it was
mm-hmm.
always disappointing if they were already online, because then I knew he
Right.
could have just pulled them from some other website or something. But
Sure.
just often enough, there would be pictures that I couldn't find. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, all right, maybe this is him. And I think another thing that I was really enjoying about this was that it was kind of all about writing, and that's
Yes.
kind of like my comfort zone is writing this kind of like back and forth. It's where I'm way more comfortable than I would be if I were face to face with somebody. I
Totally.
feel like I can sort
Totally.
of think about my replies, and kind of
Yeah.
it's on my terms and my time. So I was
Mhm.
really feeling like I was expressing myself, in a
Good.
pure,
Good.
honest way,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it seemed like it was kind of received well, like I in the middle of September, I guess, when we'd only known each other for like a couple of weeks at that point, and I started to send him a letter every night after he went to bed so he would see it in the morning. And that became sort of like my kind of diary of how this all was going and how it made me feel. And I talked about all kinds of shit, like my fears, my dreams, and so he knew me so well. I mean, I'd given him basically a blueprint, of who I was and what was important to me, and what I needed and wanted and what I wanted for him.
Right.
So I think I knew that I was so invested, I was just
Mm-hmm.
so invested sort of like in my heart, in my mind, and just like creatively. I was totally
Yeah.
invested, in figuring out how to express myself, every night, in a slightly different way.
Well,
So
I applaud you for that, and I don't know. I again, I'm so thankful that you're sharing this story, and I hope we are able to help people at least like make things right in their own mind if this happens to them,
yeah.
because you're not alone. I mean, I think this type of situation occurs time and time again, whether or not people choose to speak out about it. But Shelby, the
Hmm.
fact that we're doing this, and sure, we don't know how far it'll reach, but hopefully it will reach the right viewers. Um,
Hopefully,
eh,
yeah. And I don't know
yeah,
quite how to make sure that happens, because I don't know if Ricky Gervais fans would necessarily have any interest in
right,
this part of, whatever
right.
his name is associated with. But if anybody knows anybody, or if you are someone who's been pulled into something like this, feel
Mm-hmm.
free to reach out to us, if only for support.
Yeah,
And you can email
absolutely.
us at rickygervaisrobot@gmail.com.
Is it just
Um,
literally Ricky Gervais Robot at Gmail?
yeah,
Yeah,
and you can
yeah.
also send messages through YouTube and stuff like that. Also,
Yeah, yeah. Because we'll be posting those. It's just, we're creating a safe space for those who feel like their lives were just imploded from
hmm
scams and just I don't know, this uncertainty that again, there's so much more to unpack here, which hopefully
hmm
makes everyone feel either more included or what have you, call us silly, but it's
yeah, you
just
can call us silly. I've definitely earned that title.
it's
Um,
okay. It's
but
okay to be silly.
yeah, I
It's
mean, and
okay.
I kind of also felt like, I did feel sort of like a kid again, like I had some excitement for my
Hell
days,
yeah. I know. I know. Right?
I mean, that sort of feeling like you want to just tell everybody, even though you can't, but you just feel like you've
Screaming.
got this
Yeah.
sort of great secret
Yeah.
weapon suddenly to arm you against all the shit that life throws at you.
Absolutely. But don't worry, I can be that secret weapon for you, Shelby.
Amen, Beeb. Thank you. I
Yeah,
tell you,
you're welcome. I know.
you do sort of realize the importance of your friends and the people who actually love
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. The ones who will
But
stand by you, even though we may know you're not making the right decision, but we're
right,
going to
right.
ride that wave because
I
we're
feel
doing
like
it.
you probably in your mind were like, how do I get in the way of
No, but
this
I
getting
wasn't
worse, but
throughout
you were really
throughout the
good.
whole thing. Throughout the whole thing, I was there for it. And I asked about it. I was there. I hope I was present enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, Beeb. You were very, very supportive. And I knew you weren't all in, but you also were doing your best not to be judgmental or critical. So that's what I
No,
needed.
no,
Honestly, that's what
absolutely
I
not.
needed.
No, my life
Um,
from where I come from, I have no place to be judgmental or critical of anyone else because that's not my life.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well,
So,
maybe this will change your mind
okay.
because now
Tell
that
me. Tell me.
now that okay, so he's got pneumonia. He's being treated for pneumonia,
Mm-hmm.
and then he said he had some sort of a meeting, and he said it was my at my house, luckily, because as the meeting was winding down and I was showing my guest to the door, I started having real difficulty breathing, and I started to feel like I was going to pass out. And he said it turns out it was acute respiratory distress syndrome. And I was
Oh,
like,
really? Very
what the
specific.
fuck is that? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so so he had to go back to Dr. Dave's, obviously.
Okay, Dr. Dave
Yeah,
to the
and I
rescue.
looked up, meanwhile, I looked up ARDS, ARDS, and I was like, holy
Yes.
fuck, this could be, it could be fatal. It's
Mm, mm.
serious lung problems, So the doctor, wanted him to stay. He wanted him to have all these different types of treatments, and it was going to cost him, I think it was over $20,000 because he wanted him to
Yeah.
either stay for a long period of time or be able to at least come in, for a few days each week for oxygen therapy and all the
Sure.
meds and tests and everything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
he's telling me this, and I was like, wow.
Like it's a lot.
That's a real lot. And, I've tried to tell you in numerous different indirect ways that I'm tapped out. But then I
Right.
was thinking, part of my problem, so many problems, but one of them is every time I would tell him that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have any money or that, I couldn't help him in this instance, that somehow I would find money. I would
Oh,
either remember I had like a little retirement fund that had like $4,000 in it. So that goes to Ricky.
shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So that happened a couple times. And then, after he told me that he needed all this money for this treatment, I was like, gosh, I felt so terrible that I couldn't help him. And he wasn't really even pressing me. I said, maybe I could give you $1,000, but that's really not going to put a dent in it, is
Shelby.
it? And
Okay.
he's like, no, love, but thanks for trying. And then I was driving to my second job one
Oh my
day.
God.
I know you're going to throw up now, Beep.
I
And then
might, yeah. Yeah.
you might. And I
Ah,
remembered I had this other retirement fund from a previous job that I couldn't touch until I hit a certain age, which was
yeah.
like 59 and a half or something. And
Yeah.
at this point, I'm 61. And I'm like, holy fuck, I can tap into that retirement money, which was like over $20,000. So
Okay.
I told him, I think I can help. I remembered I have this retirement fund, but I said, this was like towards the end of October, early November. I said, it takes a while to process, and I don't think I'd have it until December.
Right, right.
And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this for me. He's like, I've never known somebody who would be so unselfish and,
She's, I'm sorry. This is taking a turn for all our
yeah,
listeners. This is the
I
first time
know.
I've heard about these type of transactions, and
Yeah.
I'm very heartbroken, and also very. I mean, where do we go from here? Okay, there's
Yeah,
okay.
I
So
know.
what else did you send him? I mean, are we gonna just
Well, the nice thing actually was that once this was out there and he knew he had to wait for it,
mm-hmm.
it kind of quieted down any other requests sort of in the interim,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mostly. Mostly.
Most Oh my God, is he
But
just bombarding you with requests?
well, kind of at this point, anytime I told him I was going to the store, he'd say, "Could you pick up a gift card?" So
Fuck off.
I
Oh
know.
my
So I
God.
was a little tired. Every time I was going to the store, which is like once a week, I thought, "Oh, should I tell him I'm going to the store? I know he's going to want a
No.
gift card. So I
No.
sort of started to not tell him, that I was going
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
stores, which I guess is some indication that I knew I was making a mistake, yet
Yes,
I wasn't
yes.
ready. I wasn't ready to really give this up. I wasn't really
Yeah.
ready to, lose this, whatever the good part of it was.
Yeah.
Um, and also somewhere in here, he sent some dick pics.
Oh my God. No, he did not. What the
Yeah,
were
they were
they
kind of,
were they worthy of of your viewing pleasure.
I enjoyed them quite a bit, Beeb, and well, partly, obviously, I was thinking, all right, how do I prove these are real? Because they were sort of
Mm-hmm.
always cropped, like
Right,
somewhere.
right, right.
Actually, most of them
Never
were
a
cropped
face,
around
right?
the
No, never
never
a
a
face.
face, and for the
Right.
most part, sort of from the waist down, like
Of course. Of
where the
course.
money is.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Money shot.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I would, throw them onto the internet to see if they could be found anywhere else, and they
I don't know how
weren't.
you do that. You will, I mean, I don't need to, but
Google
like,
Lens, Google Lens. You can just like
okay.
pull them into Google
Google
Lens.
Lens.
I don't know.
Okay.
Obviously, they don't find everything, but they didn't
Yeah.
find these, and I was trying to like study them to see.
Good, as you should, because
Thank
you were
you.
that I feel like for our job, at least, like everything we do every day in, day out, we're looking for data. We're looking for things to line up. So
Yeah.
you were able to put some pictures together. I mean, I don't know if this is for another episode. I
Yeah, no,
just
these I couldn't find anywhere. And
yeah,
so I was
okay.
trying to figure out like the body type. I had told him
Yeah.
that I thought he had a nice ass. That was
Oh,
no
sure.
secret to
Sure.
him. Okay.
Sure.
So the
Mhm.
first shot was of his butt and it was really nice. And I thought that does look like his butt, and it just it was lovely. So I started studying like his shows and stuff to
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
see like are there any ass shots, anything that can confirm that this is his ass. And that was a little exhausting, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it was important work to do.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
like I feel like I could pick that dick out of a lineup now. I know it so well. Um but
So so from the lineup, I mean, how many we're at like what 4, 5? We got a whole lineup. Like
of
yeah,
of
yeah,
wieners,
that many.
yeah.
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 Okay.
And I
I
could find this one anyway. I could find this dick. Whoever's it
this
is, I don't know, but it's a pretty good one.
for any of my family members listening to this is
Shit.
purely for
Education.
education. Don't let this happen. And
No.
bring
Well, yeah, although, it did sort of take things to another level, I would
mm,
say.
yeah.
And he
But
said
again,
things like, what?
no, I'm just thinking, I'm like, there is a person out there who's impersonating Ricky Gervais, who is like, I'm not gonna say superstar, but a famous
You could.
celebrity, and
Yeah, yeah.
trying to impersonate him. And then on top of it, outside of the money and the sending sexual pictures depicting to be a celebrity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that is just
You think that's
and I think
wrong?
we've already
Yeah.
leaked what's going on here, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it gets more and more gruesome, I think, throughout the rest of the story.
I guess it does if you know that this isn't him, but thinking it
Yeah,
was him and
correct,
hoping,
right.
hoping so
And you're like, hell
badly.
yeah,
Yeah, let's get some of
hell
that.
yeah.
I hope my daughter
Oh,
doesn't discover this
I
podcast.
know.
um, but anyway, so yeah, that was another sort of way to engage me, I will say.
Right,
I
right,
was
right, right.
definitely engaged on every level at this point. If I wasn't before, and I really was engaged on every level before, but
Mm-hmm.
this just sort of made it more vivid,
Right, right.
you know.
Totally. Very, very
Yeah,
vivid.
very, very vivid. And I don't know where he got these pictures, whoever this was
Right.
behind this, because
That's
I,
creepy.
it is a little creepy. And then, you wonder, like, does somebody have access to Ricky's life, his home or whatever? Is
Oh,
somebody,
oh. Well, so
who
all the
knows?
details that he's been providing and all the information, it all lines
Hmm.
up with shows, his home, his family life, his cat Pickles, which
Yeah,
all
he would pickle. Yeah, he would send pictures of pickle,
pickle,
you know. Mm-hmm.
yep, not plural
Mm-hmm.
pickles.
Yeah.
It just I'm hooked on that one. Uh, I, Shelby, there is so much more to unpack here.
I guess there is, and I guess
I don't
maybe
know. Is that
we
for is
that might
is
be
that
it
for?
for today.
You
We
think
should
so?
leave
I mean, I don't
everybody
know. I don't
knowing that
know.
I'm staring at pictures of someone's wiener,
Yeah, who
around the
knows who's,
clock.
yeah, whose it is, and
Right.
but it's out there, and now we're trying to put a
Hmm.
face to the name, or
To the
that face to some face.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got to do this again. I'm
Me too,
obviously
babe.
not
Thanks. I
as
mean, I couldn't do it with
intoxicated
what?
as last time. I apologize for our fans last time. We were very, very three sheets to the wind. But
Well, it seems like we need to sort of get loose to really
yeah,
delve into some of this stuff. And
yeah,
preparing for it, looking over like before we met up tonight, I was looking over all the texts basically from October and November, and there's like
mm.
hundreds and hundreds of them. And it was such a bummer. It was really just so exhausting
So
emotionally to
we're how many months in now?
well, we're just at sort of the beginning of November now,
Right. Okay.
where
From so
he's
August to November.
September. October was when the trip was supposed to happen. Then he got sick, and that takes us into November. He's still not well in
Okay.
November,
Okay. Okay. He's
although at
still not
some
well.
point he's well enough to send pictures of his dick. I can't remember the exact
I
date
mean,
that
that is
happened,
kind
but
of a man thing, you know?
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
they're always well enough to drop trow, huh?
Unfortunately. Yeah, literally. It's like, I'm dying. Suck my dick. You know? No. It's
Oh
um
well, so
all right.
yeah.
Well, so major events. I guess we should close up here. But
Hmm.
how much more will Ricky be asking for? Like, again, we have a couple more months to cover here. Shelby, are
Yeah.
you going to learn how to say no? Like, I just, there's so much more. I really can't wait till this climax happens. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's just a
Yeah.
lot. There's
There's
a
a
lot.
lot. There's a lot left, but I think we've gotten into the real meat of it, so to speak.
Absolutely. The real meat. That real meat. That real sausage
Yeah.
meat of it.
Yes.
Um,
So, gosh, sorry everyone if there's any sort of, gentle people listening. Maybe this was a
Please
bit
don't
of a
be
turn that you
gentle.
weren't anticipating.
Mm. No,
But
no, not at all.
we try to tell it like it is, I think, don't we, Beeb? For
I
better or
think so.
worse. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. Absolutely.
So okay. We'll leave
All
you all with that
right.
tonight.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you
Okay.
next time on
Yeah.
our next episode, which I
Yeah.
think is called Slicky Ricky or something
Something
like
like that. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. We'll
Okay.
see.
All
Okay,
right.
Beeb.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you,
Good
everybody.
talking.
Yep.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye.